It's worth noting that as progressive as the NBA is in so many ways, this rule has, as Adam said, been in place since the 80s, despite opportunities since to take it out. And back in 1995, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was suspended one game for not standing with his teammates during the anthem. So, Richard, what is your reaction to Silver's comments?
Well, I think everyone's like, kneel, 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 kneel. Look. This was just a form of a peaceful protest. We've seen black fists in the Olympics. We've seen T-shirts. We've seen people grasp arms. Stop focusing on the kneeling. We have to focus on what it stands for, what the peaceful protests stand for. If you're sitting there with a black glove and everybody raises their hand, if everybody locks arms, if everyone huddles up, if everyone does something, I understand the kneeling part, and that has been a hot button issue for many, many years now. But we're focused on that. I don't like to focus on the protest or the act of what is peaceful and what is not. I like to focus on the message and the opportunities. If everyone wears a shirt, that's very, very similar. If everyone raises a fist, if everyone does something together as a group, then I think that is what we should be focusing on, not the act of the protest, but why people are protesting. And I understand why you asked that question, because that's been a hot button issue. But part of the reason why it's been a hot button issue is because people are focused on that and not the actual reason why a person is actual protesting.
Yeah, I feel like we in the media have a responsibility to not focus too much on the act itself, because then it ends up distracting from what everything is about, just like Richard said. So for me, I'd almost rather talk about the Pistons today joining the Hawks, and I think the Bucks too, using their arenas or their practice facilities as polling places and voter registration places. Focus on the action, focus on the leverage the players have to kind of force their teams into taking some of these actions. But on the rule, I can tell you how Adam's comments read to me and probably to players, and that's, well, we don't really want to take the rule off the books, but we don't want to say that. We also don't want to enforce it. So please just do what you've always done for the national anthem. And to me, that's a little bit of a cop-out. If the players want to kneel, they should be able to kneel, particularly now.
Look, I certainly agree with what you're saying, both of you, about the fact that people should focus on what the kneeling is for, right? And you should not allow the conversation to be hijacked to being about the anthem or about the military, which was never involved in this in the first place. It is about police brutality and all of the larger range of social injustices we have going on in this country right now. That being said, if a player decides that this is what he wants to do, I do agree with you, Zach, that the NBA needs to, at some point, take a position on this. Yeah, and that sometimes sometimes, by the way, when it's sort of like, oh, well, we're all locking arms, that feels a lot to me sort of like a muted version of we've made this okay and comfortable for everyone. And the fact that the national anthem is uncomfortable for a lot of people is part of the point that Colin Kaepernick was trying to make. So I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because we're not always focusing on the right thing with
Rachel, I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah.
But again, this is not about kneeling.
You're right.
Everyone in the NBA decides to kneel, if everyone decides to kneel, and there's no more conversation about kneeling, are we still going to be talking about kneeling? Are we still going to? No, there might be some individuals that want to stand. There might be some that want to kneel. None of that matters. None of that matters at all. The only thing that matters is bringing attention to the cause and what they're trying to bring attention to. So every moment that we speak about, well, what is Adam Silver going to do? Who's going to kneel? Who's not going to kneel? How many players are kneeling? 2 guys are kneeling. What are your thoughts about kneeling? No one cares about kneeling. That's the whole thing. I apologize. People do care about the kneeling, but I think that we can focus on the actual causes that we can actually help change to make sure that every single individual in this country feels like they have an equal opportunity.